Hello class. Um, Wanted to give everybody a short video um, since we will not be meeting this week. There is no class on February the 6th. I do apologize, and certainly thank everybody for their patience. We will be meeting together as a group on February the 20th, so what we need to be doing is working independently until we meet again. And thankfully, since the course was designed to be a hybrid course, we will be okay and still be able to meet all of the requirements and objectives that we need to. Hopefully everybody has been reading in your textbook. Um, and of course, last time we met, we talked about Chapter 2, which was ethical and legal issues, as well as a really brief introduction to the field. The Chapter 2 issues, extremely important. Those legal and ethical issues come up daily. We cannot make light of them. And at the same time, seldom are these issues black and white. Sometimes they are shades of gray. And we have to make a professional decision, a professional judgment about what is best for you as the professional and for the client based on your skill set, based on prior experience, educational levels, the field that you represent, and the expectations of your employer, um, legal requirements, and the unique circumstance of the client. So this is an extremely complicated and quite dangerous, to be honest, topic. And if when in doubt, it's always best to talk with your clinical supervisor or veteran coworkers who can help you process the circumstance out and help you look at alternatives and compare the circumstance to ethical and legal standards that may exist that apply to you, and never ever feel like you're by yourself, that you have the weight of the world on your shoulders and you have to make these decisions by yourself, because that's not true. That's the purpose of having a really good clinical supervisor and an agency that's supporting you. Chapter 3, I ask everyone to read Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. Of course, Chapter 3 is the major substances of the body, or the substances that individuals tend to use most of. We'll not spend very much time on this chapter. It's actually a review of HMS 251 ONE, which is the Substance Abuse Overview class, which spends the entire course looking at the major drugs that's used, legal and illegal, in the United States. So, good information. Make sure to review this information, but you will have seen this in the past. Chapter number 4, why people use. This is a really nice chapter. It shows us patterns of behavior within society that may help us predict a possible use with certain populations. Of course, you can never predict populations that may use versus those that do not, but we can make educated statistical guesses of sorts related to risk factors. Within human services and social work, there are risk factors and protective factors. Protective factors are just what they sound like. Factors of society that insulate a member, a citizen, a family from negative consequences or negative behaviors. So, protective factors are a strong family unit, for example. Um, Employment opportunities. Other protective factors are the ability to solve problems, patience, critical thinking. Good health is a protective factor. Educational attainment, in terms of completing high school at least, is a protective factor. The feeling of safety within family units is a protective factor. And the more protective factors we place on the individual, the greater likelihood of that individual being able to have a high quality life, to be resilient when problems arise, and refuse active alcohol abuse, misuse, and dependence. Risk factors are those items and occurrences in life that create an opposite experience. Those experiences that put us at risk. Not completing high school, having family members that use alcohol, drugs, or other substances, living below the poverty standard, not being employed, having high health risk, not being very patient, being very timid, having poor problem-solving skills, being around or a community or living in a neighborhood that has high-risk behaviors or high crime rates. Those are examples of risk factors. So individuals who may be growing up or living in circumstances that expose them to those factors may have higher odds of being involved in substance use, misuse, abuse, dependence, and so forth. But neither is an all or nothing sum game. Just because you have a high number of protective factors available doesn't mean that you might not fall prey to substance use and abuse. And just because you live in a community that has high risk factors does not mean that you're destined to use and abuse substances. There's many things that we can predict in addiction, and there's to predict future use. There's many of the items that we cannot, and in neither case is there such a thing as destiny. There's a choice and impact of free will. Chapter 4 also talks about the older moral theory of addiction, that there was something wrong with the person's morality, or they were just a bad person, and therefore they were making a choice to use. They were living a life of ill repute and immoral, therefore this is why they use. If you look into history, especially before the AA model took root, most of society believed that, or believed that in the past. Many parts of our society still believe that, and that is not, it's not necessarily true, or not true at all. If you believe in the medical model of addiction, the medical model of addiction, your book talks about, and we have talked about some, and the pre-reading material I passed out after the first class meeting about addiction was all based on the medical model of addiction. And if you haven't taken HMS 130, which is addiction and prevention, that's what that course is about, how we view addiction in today, in 2014. While there is some room for debate, we have readily accepted that addiction is a disease like any other, and you're responsible for the actions that you take while under the influence of this disease, but you're not responsible for the fact that you do have the disease. But you are responsible for the actions you take. Chapter 4 talks about genetic theories and behavioral theories and so forth. What we need to concentrate on is the medical theory and the moral theory, to be honest. The moral theory can give us a historical perspective, and the medical theory, the current view of addiction. We will be reading Chapter 5 in this lesson, which is about assessment and diagnosis. We will be getting into the assessment process and the diagnosis process, and what the counselor has to be looking for during this process. We will meet again on the 20th, and I will practice. We will have a practice interview of sorts with a fellow student who wants to volunteer, and then we will practice together as a group as well, interviewing each other, and that will take up almost the entire night. So it'll be really important for us to read and gain some conceptual knowledge of Chapter 5 before we start the interview process. Your book talks about the Addiction Severity Index, the ASI, on page 140. I will be giving everybody a copy of the Addiction Severity Index, and we will be using that instrument to interview each other as practice. We have in the meantime, I will be reading everybody's first paper, making comments and responding back to you via email about your papers. And I will also be looking through your goals and one activity change proposal that was emailed to me. I will be responding to those. And we have a second paper due by the next time we meet. You have a choice. You can continue at greater depth on the topic, on your first paper topic, so you can continue the conversation but at a deeper level, or you can choose a totally new topic from your list of 10 topics to write your paper on. That paper is due on February the 20th, next time we meet. Also, we have a quiz for Chapter 4 to be completed via Blackboard that is also due by the time we meet again. If you have questions, please let me know in the meantime. Let's not wait till the very last minute to take care of the assignments and activities. And we will see everybody on the 20th at Crossroads. Thank you. Take care.